Hey guys, Mike here, Tactical Texture and Triggers. Going to do another video on the trigger bar, hopefully a short video on the trigger bar, just to try to clear up some confusion. Had a lot of people under the impression that this is just a polished trigger bar, which couldn't be farther from the truth here. So hopefully this video will explain what the trigger job bar is, what it's not, and the biggest thing is how much thought, research, and development and refinement went into the actual design itself. So real quick, what the trigger job bar is a stock OEM Glock trig bar that has been tuned and modified to optimize smoothness and performance. And I'll get into exactly how that's done in a bit here, but just to look at some of the differences between stock and the trigger job bar, this is a stock bar. This is what this thing looks like if you buy a new gun or if you get a new trigger bar. The biggest thing I want to show you is how bad these surfaces start out as. I mean, you can see the rough tooling marks, the imperfections, the burrs on this. See if I can keep this in focus here. So yeah, this is, like I said, just kind of gross as far as how bad these things start out with. Now, if you haven't already, I would check out the Facebook page, facebook.com trigger job bar. I posted some macro pictures of these. It's a little bit easier to see what I'm talking about on there. Hopefully I'll be able to keep this in focus. So this is a stock trigger bar. Contrast that to what the trigger job bar looks like. You can see the dramatic refinement in this vertical extension, the front of this bird's beak here where it meets the connector, and those are just the two parts here. So like I said, there's a dramatic difference between stock and the trigger job bar. So let me explain what the trigger job bar is not though. Obviously it's not just a polished trigger bar. And here's the thing, guys, if you are doing the 25-cent trigger job, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but it kind of is. And the reason is that if you start out with dull, bumpy surfaces just like this, and you polish them, guess what? You're going to have shiny, bumpy surfaces. The feel is going to be basically the same. You're still going to have that same grittiness you did before. You might have reduced a little bit of surface friction, but not a whole lot. The biggest thing, though, is that grittiness is still going to be there. You need to make the surfaces smooth before you make them shiny. Otherwise, there's really not a lot of difference you're going to get in the end product. So it's not just a polished trigger bar. The other thing with the trigger job bar, as you can see, it's not adjustable. There's no stop pins, over travel, stop, or anything like that. You'll never see that in the trigger job bar. This is just simply smooth. It's designed to drop into an EDC or a carry gun, or for the people that don't need or want the adjustability in there. You see more of the adjustability in the competition kits. The guys that are running these things in competitions that want to squeeze or try to wring every last bit of performance out there, that like to dial in their own pre-travel, specific trigger weight, and so on. If that's what you're looking for a competition gun, by all means go to someplace like Johnny Glocks or something like that, where they can design a trigger kit specifically for the need that you have. This is a simple drop-in part that's just going to change how smooth the trigger is. Finally, it's not just a cool shoe on a stock bar. Nowadays, it's kind of baffling. It seems like some people are confused by what they're actually buying. I had a customer tell me, oh, I don't need a trigger job because I've got an agency trigger job. And I'm like, well, I didn't even know they did trigger jobs. He's like, yeah, I got the trigger that they sent. What you are getting when you do that is a stock trigger bar, again with all these imperfections and everything, that has their proprietary shoe design on there. So if you're looking for a flat face shoe or a different something besides polymer, those are great, but understand you are getting a stock rough bar attached to that thing. So there's not a huge benefit in the way that it feels. It feels different to your finger, but not as you're actually running the gun. So like I said, the trigger job bar is tuned and modified, and I'll go over some of the parts here like I showed you as far as with the surfaces that are cleaned up. The biggest thing is that, like I said, you need to remove the imperfections of the stock bar. You need to take those rough tooling marks out, and nowadays they are really bad from as far as the batches that we've gotten through here. So refining those, making those smooth. The smoother the surfaces are, the less of that gritty feel there is. A lot of these surfaces are taken down to about 3 microns, some of them even 1 micron. So they're very, very smooth. Again, these are polished as far as on the inside, but they're trued up first. This is actually a trigger job bar, just real quick, that I have here in the shop. I do some R&D with this, so it's not in brand new perfect condition because it's been in a gun, in and out of a gun several times. I just constantly keep up with the R&D and the quality control, but I just wanted to grab this and show you exactly what some of the design work is on this. So again, there's refinement in this vertical extension. The front of this trigger bar, the bird's beak that impacts the connector, the inside, there are modifications done to the inside of the bottom side of the cruciform wings. Doing that allows the trigger bar to drop down a little bit quicker, a little smoother than it would in stock form. Basically removing some of the sharper edges where you need to, but being careful not to change the angles where you don't. That's the biggest key, is knowing what not to do, not just what to do. So hopefully that explains a little bit as far as the process and things. The three key benefits though that I want you to take away from this with the trigger job bar are these. The first one is it's 100% reliable. Just like the stock bar, there is nothing added to it as far as the stop pins, over travel screws, so on and so forth. I don't want to do anything to this bar itself that may potentially create an issue later on, as far as whether it's the human element of me not drilling the hole or setting the screw correctly, or a mechanical element like having Loctite fail or the screw itself fail or something like that. You will never see an adjustable version of the trigger job bar. I can tell you that right now. I don't want that in there. If you're looking for adjustability, again, that's the competition side. I'm staying in my lane with this one, just making it smooth. That's the biggest thing. This is dramatically smoother than the stock trigger bar, and like I said, I think now you can see why. But the last thing, and it's kind of cool, that it actually enhances the performance of aftermarket trigger bars, or aftermarket trigger parts like connectors or trigger jobs. It kind of creates a synergy. Basically what happens when you have a stock rough bar going against a stock rough connector, you have even more grittiness. When you change that to the trigger job bar, things smooth out dramatically at that point. And what happens is when you add another thing like a connector, which is a common upgrade, now you have another smooth surface going against a smooth surface, and it makes it a lot easier, and you feel, like I said, a higher level of smoothness than you would with the stock parts. Also, the other common thing that a lot of people are changing out, if you want a different feel, to change out just the shoe itself. In other words, you start with the trigger job bar. Places that have these really cool, whether they're aluminum or metal shoes, a lot of times will sell just the shoe itself, like this is an Apex one here, so that you can take this, knock this out if you want to, and just knock the pin out. This comes with the pin in it. You switch that out. Now you've got a dramatic improvement both in the feel, as far as the flat face part, and the overall design that enhances the action of the trigger itself. So that's kind of cool as well. So whether you're working with a different connector, different trigger shoe, whatever other parts that you're changing as far as springs and so on, it really makes a difference with the trigger job bar. So I think that's about everything. Like I said, if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up over here. If you have any questions, post them down below here. And again, also please check out the Trigger Job Facebook page and follow Trigger Job Bar at Trigger Job Bar on Instagram. Those have the pictures that I talked about. The macro pictures is a little bit easier to see than sometimes capturing it on the video because of the way the light's bouncing off these things here. And as always, go ahead and check out the triggerjobbar.com if you're looking to order one or want some more information on there. And I'll keep you guys updated with the videos and more information. So until next time, stay safe and stay smooth. Thanks, guys.